This episode is sponsored by MJ's Progress Not Perfection Meeting Center Association. We are in our meeting center where we do all these meetings for mental health and addiction. I can do this podcast anywhere. I can do this at home. I can do this in a closet. I can do this in a basement. It doesn't matter. All I need is somebody else to talk to about addiction and recovery. What I can't do from anywhere is help people with their addiction and their mental health problems. So if you can help out, we do have a Venmo, we have a Cash App, we have a PayPal, we have an address you can send a check to, and, all the money that gets donated goes towards rent, goes towards keeping the lights on, and goes towards keeping the internet on. So please, if you can give $5, $10, $20, it doesn't matter. Anything you can is so appreciated. And if you are a local business, if you're a national business, whatever, and you want to be a part of what we're doing, you can reach out to me and we can talk about how you can be a sponsor. But I'll let you get back to the episode.
Welcome to the show, Abby.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me here.
Now, I found you because you make videos for your recovery, and lots of them.
I do.
You make lots of videos on Instagram and TikTok. I'll put the links also if anyone is following me and doesn't know you, then they can check out, the kind of stuff you post. What's your sober date?
The 1st of April, 2020.
Okay, cool. April Fool's Day.
Yeah, well, when I told some of my friends that I was getting sober, they were like, haha, April Fools. And I was like, no, I'm actually really, really depressed and I'm in a really dark place and I'm an alcoholic. And they're like, oh, okay, shit.
What's crazy is my friend Jules is English. Like, her mom lives in England. She's done a bunch of murals in London, actually. She's a muralist. I met her in AA, and her sober date is also April Fool's. She was on my show in October, and we were talking about her sober date being April Fool's, and she was saying, like, it was basically a joke at first. Like, because no one believed me that I was even going to be able to do it, and stick with it this time, and they told me they were like, just make your date the 1st because it's going to be a joke anyway.
Well, it's a good way to start because, you just want to prove people wrong.
Yeah, 7 years later. I like having unique, fun, mine's Leap Day.
Oh, nice.
Of 2020. It's not my original. My original date goes back 2018. That's from pills, but I slipped with drinking for a little bit. But so my sober date is Leap Day now. So, like, I think it's cool having, like, random fun days like that.
It is.
So when did you start making, like, videos about recovery, how soon into, April 1st? Because you're talking 2 weeks into quarantine. And I know you're in England. I don't know where in England, but I know England was massively shut down, if not still is and barely is open still. So, like, there's no meetings that you can hit, obviously. You just can't go, like, do 90 and 90. You can do 90 Zooms. Yeah. Did you find making videos helpful instead of doing all that?
I did. Well, I started making, recovery content, probably about, 8 or 9 months ago. But when I got sober, I started making Instagram content, but I was making fashion content. Because, like you said, I got sober just right at the beginning of the pandemic. We went into lockdown, and I knew that I needed a hobby. I needed something to do to fill my time with.
Occupy your mind.
Exactly, yeah. And give myself a creative outlet and something. Give myself goals and stuff like that. So I started making fashion Instagram account because I love clothes and makeup and stuff. And then I was doing that I did that for about a year, and then about a year in, I felt like I'd the fashion stuff had served its purpose. I kind of completed that. The project was finished. And then because I was a year into recovery, I was starting to feel like I had a little bit of experience, and it was a topic that I could start to talk about, and I could start, helping others and doing that. And that's when I started making recovery videos.
Yeah, because by then you have a little more confidence in your own recovery. You learn some things along the way. And at the same time, let's be real, you're learning how to make videos. You're learning how to do transitions. You're learning how the algorithms work. So it's almost like, you were taking your time into actually doing recovery stuff with, no idea you were going to go that direction. But making the fashion stuff, it seems to help you learn how to make videos in general.
It did, absolutely. And it helped me get a job. so that's good.
Did it?
Yeah. So I work for a marketing agency doing social media marketing, and then so doing all that kind of stuff, like,
Yeah.
helped me actually get employed.
Yeah, because not everyone knows how to do like make reels or make TikToks or do all that kind of stuff, and it's always like so funny to me where like even my wife will be like, I need to like do this. I'm like, okay, well just do this and then do that step and then this step, that step, and then this step, and then you're done. She goes, do you know how hard that is? You just told me to do it like it was nothing. I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like to me, it's just like screenshot this, screen record this, combine this, and it's like
nature almost.
yeah, I can put together a TikTok in minutes now if I know the song I'm using. The hardest part for me is picking the right song and doing all that. So okay, now let's rewind some more then, Abby. Are you sober from? Are you what we call real deal alcoholic, or are you sober from also drugs too?
Alcohol is my main problem, is my main vice. I'm sober from all drugs. I'm sober from everything. And then, but before I got sober, I was taking a whole heap of drugs.
Okay, yeah. But alcohol was your go-to, your main thing.
Yeah, it's always been like, it's like my best friend and my worst enemy. It's always been like, yeah,
and it's different for you too, because it's got to be different. I know that like I have a sister I put in, she was an exchange student that lived with us for a year. She might even be listening because I always see Germany listening to my podcast, and I know it was her because she told me. So Christiana, if you're listening, so, and I know what I mean. It's more acceptable to drink at a younger age just from talking to her. So, I know that it's acceptable to have wine with the family and to drink with the family at the holidays and whatever. So when did you have your first like drunk? I'm not even going to say drink because I know that you could have been getting, slid drinks from 7. I don't even count them. When was your first drunk where you said, holy shit, this is it?
I think I must have been about 13 or 14. So
accurate. Sounds accurate.
Drinking culture in Britain is just like, it's just ridiculous. It's
I always laugh at, you watch a show Parks and Recreation.
Yeah.
And when they went to London, the one episode, Ron's like, I wouldn't even know where to find a drink. And Leslie's like, what? There's a pub there. There's a pub there. There's a pub there. There's a pub there. There's a pub there.
That's it. Like, and binge drinking is like, so like, it's part of British culture. Like, that is British culture. Like, drinking to the point of oblivion, basically.
Yeah, I listen to Adele. I know.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, like, in Europe, they'll drink from a younger age, but it's like a wine with dinner, or you'll have a beer with your family or something. And then in the UK, it's like you will pass out at the age of 15.
Yeah, I remember my parents said they were at a bar in London once, like having lunch, and like 9th graders walked in and started ordering pitchers. And they were just like so like blown away because like I was that age at the time when they were over there. And they were like, they were your age. They couldn't have been older than you. And they're ordering beers and drinking that. It blew our minds.
Yeah.
And it's so acceptable. So 13, you had your first, like, that was my first blackout. It was 13. I was 13 when 99 went to 2000. And that was like my first blackout was that New Year's Eve. When we all thought we like could die at Y2K. The year 2000. When that all happened. So when did like the drinking become out of hand for you pretty quickly as a teenager?
I say so. I mean, thing is, it's difficult to say out of hand, or to tell when it's out of hand with the British drinking culture, with the binge drinking, because like, so my drinking would have been like way out of hand by the time I was 16, like compared to
me,
like
America,
compared to America, whereas like in the UK, it's just so normal for 16-year-olds to go out on the weekend and get drunk in a park, and it's like that's what is expected of teenagers.
I mean, that's New Jersey. That's what it was like in New Jersey where I grew up. It was expected to be at the park on a weekend and getting drunk. If it makes you feel any better, it's kind of expected where I'm from. But I mean, like out of hand to the point where it's like your parents or loved ones are like, Abby, what are you doing?
Probably okay. So like when I was like I was like 15 or 16, I was
Not
like
far off.
yeah, I was really into, I still am now, like really into rock music. I was really into like the live music scene, and I just thought rock stars were the best thing ever. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to become a groupie. I want to go to all their parties. I want to fall in love with them. I want to do all this. I watched that movie, Almost Famous, the one about.
I got Penny Lane tattooed on my arm because of
Oh,
Almost Famous.
oh my god, I love that.
It's my
I love
favorite.
that. I used to call myself Penny Lane because I thought.
Yeah, it's literally it's the shape of the whatchamacallit, the
Oh,
street sign.
that's amazing.
Because I'm so obsessed with that movie Almost Famous that
Oh,
I needed that tattoo. And it's one of my favorite carpool karaoke's with James
oh,
Corden.
Tiny Dancer.
Well, no, when Paul
Oh.
McCartney comes on and they go together and then they're going around and they talk about Penny Lane. They literally go there.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's a really good one. They go all around. Oh my God, where the hell is he from? I'm
Liverpool.
blanking. Thank you. Yeah, they go all around Liverpool and like they go to his old house.
Oh,
And
amazing.
like the people are like, "Oh my God!" like Paul McCartney's here.
Yeah, Liverpool as well. Like
Yeah, like he's just walking around town with like James Corden singing. It's such a cool like little segment. But yeah, I love that movie. I can totally see you wanting to be like, you know, a groupie or no, what do they call themselves? They didn't call
bandaids.
Bandaids. They weren't groupies. They were bandaids.
Yeah, bandaids. So I saw that movie and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. Like, and I was like, I want to be like her. I want to be like them. Anyway, so like, yeah, I started when I was still at school. I started like going to like all these rock shows and partying.
How old are you? I'm trying to get a gauge of like who's big then.
I'm 34.
Oh, you're my age. Okay.
Yeah. I just turned 34. And yeah, it was a lot of like UK bands. Yeah.
I'm gonna go cut school and see Oasis.
Yeah.
No, they're Irish. But anyway, okay.
What, Oasis? No,
they're English. They're English.
Yeah, they're English. They're from Manchester.
They're okay.
Yeah, not really my scene though. They're a bit before my time.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I started like hanging around with all these like rock bands. I started to go to like after show parties, and I was just partying all the time and missing a load of school, missing so much school. Yeah. Turning it up to school like hungover, like
they don't like that.
They don't like that. They don't like that at all. But my priorities weren't like getting grades or my future or anything. My priority was having sex with older men, like and drinking and doing drugs, and that like continued until I got expelled from school for not showing up. They were like, "You do need to go." They got to because my school basically knew what I was doing. Like I didn't keep it secret.
No, and that's the thing is that's high school girls. They're not going to keep a secret. They want to be able to brag about what they're doing on the weekends and who they're doing on the weekends or where they're going on the weekends. Like, and if you're living this wild, crazy Penny Lane, Almost Famous lifestyle, you're going to want to brag. Because this is like, oh my God, Almost Famous came out in 99, 2000, and you were literally on the cusp of becoming a teenager and discovering alcohol as Almost Famous came out, which meant it would have been popular on DVD in 2001. Now it's all adding up.
Yeah, it's the perfect time for me to have this.
Yeah, thanks, Cameron Crowe.
Yeah, thanks, Cameron Crowe. You ruined my life. Yeah, my like our head of year, who is like he's not the headmaster, but he's like the head of our age group, I'd say, to explain to an American. So our head of year like knew which bands that I'd go and hang out with and I'd go party with, and he'd check their tour dates, and then he'd be like, right, I know this band are going on tour like this date. If you're not here, if you're not in this school, you're gonna be in so much trouble, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. And it still like went.
So wait, this head of year thing, now let's backtrack. As head of year, does that mean that one of your peers in your class is the head of the class, or you have a teacher that's the head of the class?
A teacher. So
I was gonna say, who is this narc that is like, I know where you're going, Abby. I'm gonna tell on you.
Little snitch.
Yeah, who takes that job? Take your feet up.
No, like we call grades years.
Yeah, I knew that part. I knew that.
Yeah.
I knew holidays or vacations, and I knew your dates are the other way, you know, and you say process and not process. I knew that.
Yeah, yeah.
I try to say process. I try to make a conscious effort. My wife always laughs that you say process and not process.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, they're right though. That's the right way to say it, because pro, if somebody goes pro, we don't say go pra, we say go pro. So it's process. Our place is progress, not perfection. Not progress, not perfection. And she was like, I don't know what to do with you. You're ridiculous. Say whatever the fuck you want. So I try to like fuck with people and say process. This way they go, what'd you just say? I'm like, it's the right way to say it. Like, it's the right way. Trust me. So you guys do say, don't worry. I'm caught up on some of the English.
Okay.
You know, I popped 38% of my ancestry of English, so I had to get a little bit, you know, cultured.
Yeah, that's good.
I did skip a free trip to London once, though. That was to London and then to Scotland with my family for 10 days because I knew I would never make it 10 days without withdrawing. So I decided to not go on that trip and told them that I would just stay back and work instead. So yeah, that was, and it's weird because I literally just talked to a girl from Scotland the other day.
Mhm.
And so I'd never talked to anybody from Europe yet on the show, and now Scotland the other day and England today, and had a couple Australians. Had a couple Australians in September that were random and they didn't know each other. I just found them in support groups because I'm in like Facebook support groups and people post their stories all the time. Like, hey, tell your story here. All right, so now Abby is bouncing around the high school, and you're getting threatened of this teacher is basically watching this band travel to see if you're gonna travel with them. When is it when you're kicked out?
So I got kicked out of school when I was 17.
What year is that for you?
That is year 12.
Do you guys have 13 years?
Yeah. So there's
okay, I thought so.
And then you
okay. Because I remember my sister came back and then she had another year, even though she graduated at our school, and then she came back and had to do it again. All right. So now, when you get kicked out, are your parents upset? Like, do they know why? Do they know why you got kicked out?
Yeah. So I grew up with just my mother, and then at that point she was just like I don't know what to do with you. Just do what you do. Do what you want. You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it anyway. So just do what you want. And I was like, yeah, cool. Yeah. By that point, like I didn't care about. I had no.
Are you an only child?
No, I have 2 brothers and a sister. They're all older.
Okay, so that's the do it you do that. Okay, so I was close.
Yeah.
A mom would have always said, do whatever you want. You're gonna do whatever you want anyway. To the youngest or the only, pretty much their last. Their last one is where they go, fuck it, do whatever you want. You're not gonna listen. You're not gonna listen. Just do it anyway. You know,
That's
they know better.
That's it. And my brothers and my sister, they all did really well in school. They all did they've all got families. They're all married. They've all had like very kind of like I don't know, traditional. Kind of like traditional.
I call it traditional. Yeah, my brother and sister are the same way. And then there's the black sheep, you know, where it's like, you know,
they're a bunch of normies. So I think by the time it got to me, my mum's like, I've got 3 kids who did like really well. 3 out of 4 isn't bad. Like,
do whatever you want, Abby. I got 3 other ones that I can talk about on Facebook for right now.
That's it. Exactly. So I just was like, I just took that as a sign that all hell should break loose.
Yeah, and why shouldn't it? You know, and I remember that time. You know what I mean? I'm sure it is different in England than it was in America, but it's not that much different. Like, the way technology was changing around the time that when we were graduating high school and, you know, becoming adults, you know, in the mid 2000s, it was a totally different time than turning 18 now, right? Because like the technology was there, but it wasn't there. It was a little bit there, but not all the way there. There was still some like sense of 1990s, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't just FaceTime me at any time. You couldn't just see my location wherever I was. All that stuff, like even like Facebook right away, none of that was even around until like 2010. You know, before that, the smartphones, they were definitely the dumbest kids in school because those smartphones and like the Blackberries, they were not. So I feel like we could get away with a lot more then
Yeah.
than kids can get away with now. Are you
Yeah.
living with your mom this entire time that you're kicked out and she's like, you can live here, just do whatever the fuck you want anyway. I don't care anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much, yeah.
No, okay, that makes sense because like it adds up with the patterns. So now, do you go to another school, or you just like, do you guys have a GED in England? How does that work?
Well, I went to another school. I went to the school I initially went to. It wasn't a particularly good sort of school. It was like a regular school, and then the school that I went to was, because I didn't know, like I didn't have to go to school. I could have got a job or whatever, but well, I didn't want a job. That was just like no,
No.
no way did I want a job. And then like I didn't know what else to do with my life. Like I was like, oh, and then all my friends were at school, so I was like, oh, I guess I'll go to this other school, and it was like the worst school in the area. It was terrible. And by that point, like I didn't care about my future whatsoever. All I cared about was drinking and drugging. So when I went to this really crappy school, I had even less of an interest in my future. So I started doing like loads of coke at school. I met this guy.
Here we go.
Yeah, who he was really into that kind of stuff. And he was just like one day on a lunch break, he was like, "Hey, do you want to do some cocaine under the stairs?" And I was like, "Yeah." And
yeah.
that
Yeah.
I ended up living with him at one point, like a few years later, when he was dealing coke, and it was just, God, the most terrifying thing. It was horrible. That's the story for another time.
Oh wait, you're telling me that living with a coke dealer doesn't have a safe, warm feeling with it?
Yeah,
accompanying with it. It's so weird. Even in England, those coke dealers, they're shifty, huh?
Yeah.
You never quite know what's going on in their head.
Yeah, not as glamorous as you might think.
No, I've seen some movies.
Yeah.
I've done some blow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I went to this other school, and then I was like, right, I really want to move to London. This whole education thing is not for me. It sucks. And the best way that I knew how to move to London. So I grew up just outside London.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you next, because you're talking about. So London, that's UK. How far are you growing up from London?
Like 30 minutes on the train.
Okay,
so
and you go in. So it's easy to hop over into London frequently to see shows and all that kind of stuff, because we would go to Philly or New York City from New Jersey, and it would be pretty quick. But you want to live in the city so that you don't have to take the train, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and I wanted to live by myself. I was 18. I was a grown up. I wanted to.
You were ready, mature,
I was
ready.
So ready. I didn't want to have to answer to anyone. I was ready to start my life. And, but like, the easiest way I thought to like move to London would be to go to university. So I got like one grade. I got one A level, which is like the exams that you take to get into. You need to have at least like 3. The exams that you take to get into university. I got 1, so I got into like the worst university in London. It was in the East End of London. It was basically like a prison. It was not a good university. It was like a hall pretty much. And I don't even know what I was supposed to be studying. So I went there, and I went to like the first lecture, and took the student loan, and then never went again. And I spent the whole of my student loan on drugs and alcohol, and I'm so horrifically in debt because of it now. I went to one class.
And you can't even tell me what the class was to tell me what you learned in that one class for that debt.
I cannot.
But at least you got high with that debt, A lot of us accrue a lot of debts in addiction, and whether they're debts meant for college or debts from our parents' purse, it doesn't matter. We all accrue debts while we're in addiction one way or another.
That's
it. You're not a college graduate from that school. I'm going to take a guess.
I am not.
They have not passed along your certificate. But you could stay living there, though?
Yeah. I was Yeah, we have like student halls, like it. And bear in mind, this is like the worst university in the country.
Yeah.
Our halls was like, it was converted government housing, basically. And like there wasn't like what do you call it? Like a resident advisor and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like this was not like the university, like the colleges.
This is
that
basically you're living. It sounds like you were living in a hostel, and they were saying it.
But it was a hostel of students. There was no adults there.
It was
like,
hostel adjacent.
Yeah. Yeah. There was no adults there. It was just students. Like, and we were just in this complex, and we were
So it's mayhem.
Run free.
It's mayhem. Sorry? It's
mayhem. It was mayhem. Yeah.
Because I'm sure you're not the only one in that complex that is, not running an honest program.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like all my friends were going to lectures. They were all studying.
Oh, good for them.
Yeah, I'm not sure how hard, but
yeah. But they were going to the classes that they were paying for. You just weren't.
I just wasn't.
So because you got a year, did you have any times in your 20s where like you tried to quit drinking?
No, definitely not. No.
Okay, so what happened after college? University.
So I'll give you like the short version, because honestly I could
it's
about myself for hours.
Well, that's why you're on the show, is to talk about yourself. You're not on here to talk about me.
That is true.
So you can give me any version you want to talk. If you want to give me the long, we have time.
So after I went to university, and I use air quotes for that.
After I arrived at university and took their check.
Yeah, I took their check, which I have not paid back yet. I've not even started paying it back, actually. That's really bad.
Fine. 9 step amends means you're willing to make them at any time. It doesn't mean you have to make them now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's coming. So yeah, I carry on living in London. I started working in hospitality. I was like waitressing. Decided I wanted to get into radio. I wanted to be a radio presenter. So I did like loads of like kind of like low level radio jobs, like internships, and yeah, just basically making coffee for radio producers and stuff. I did that for a couple of years, and that was like I was working with a lot of people who were older than me. There was a lot of cocaine about, a lot of drinking, which I obviously loved. So I carried on that lifestyle, and then I got into club DJing. And I did that for a year or so, which also, as you can imagine,
with drugs and comes with drinking and blacking out.
So. Yeah, even more so. And then still having the time of my life. Like,
this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Exactly. And then what followed was like 10 years of me traveling around the world, living out of backpack, doing drinking and drugging, basically. In 2011, I was like I'd been living in London since like 2007 by that point, and I was like, oh, I'm bored now. Like, I'm not gonna get a job. Like, I don't know what I want to do for a career anymore. Like, I don't know what to do. You know what a really good idea is? To get a one-way ticket to Thailand. So I got a one-way ticket to Thailand, and then that was 10 years, pretty much.
Thailand.
I got my backpack.
So I flew to Thailand 10 years later, and I'm sober. And I don't know what happened since.
This episode is sponsored by MJ's Progress Not Perfection Meeting Center Association. We are in our meeting center where we do all these meetings for mental health and addiction. I can do this podcast anywhere. I can do this at home. I can do this in a closet. I can do this in a basement. It doesn't matter. All I need is somebody else to talk to about addiction and recovery. What I can't do from anywhere is help people with their addiction and their mental health problems. So if you can help out, we do have a Venmo, we have a Cash App, we have a PayPal, we have an address you can send a check to, and all the money that gets donated goes towards rent, goes towards keeping the lights on, and goes towards keeping the internet on. So please, if you can give $5, $10, $20, it doesn't matter. Anything you can is so appreciated. And if you are a local business, if you're a national business, whatever, and you want to be a part of what we're doing, you can reach out to me and we can talk about how you can be a sponsor. But I'll let you get back to the episode.
how were you traveling around though? Were you with somebody?
No, no. I just went on my own. I went solo. I was like, I wasn't gonna sit around waiting for my friends to get their act together and come to Thailand with me. I was
To
like,
get their act together. Do you hear you? You said for my friends to get their act together and drink every day with me. You know,
yeah,
like
quit
fucking
their jobs.
adults.
Yeah, exactly. Quit their jobs and abandon their careers to get drunk with me.
Leave
on
those
the
kids
beach.
behind. That kid can barely talk anyway, Sharon.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't even ask them if they wanted to come with me. I was like, I'm going.
I'm
See
going
ya.
to Thailand. How long? But how long? How long did you stay in Thailand?
Well, I was in Thailand. Well, initially only like a month, but I ended up living in Laos for like 4 years. I lived in Cambodia for 6 months. Um, in this time, I did go home to visit. I went back to
Okay.
London to visit every now and then.
Hey Ma, I'm back again a little
Yeah,
bit. Feed
yeah,
me. I know I look like horrible, but it's only because I'm traveling. I don't
yeah.
look like this all the time. What are you
Promise.
doing for money?
So I was working. I was bartending. I was bartending.
Okay.
Yeah. So like when I was living in Laos, I lived in this town called Bang Vieng. It's famous on like the backpacker circuit for being like very hedonistic, which is why I loved it so much.
Are you hedonistic?
Yeah, oh, just a little bit. Just a bit.
Only on the bad side.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. This CNN reporter came down, like a travel reporter came down once, and then he described it as if it was as if the teenagers had taken over the world.
Oh, is that like that? Is that like the movie The Beach?
It was yeah, it was that kind of vibe, I guess. But where we were, so I
That's what I think of right away is, The Beach.
yeah,
And not many
well,
people even know that movie, but of
yeah,
course you do, because it's if you know Almost Famous, if you know
yeah,
The Beach and Almost Famous, we're going to be good friends, Abby. Because
sure.
those are two movies that no one really even like. People look at the Penny Lane tattoo and they have no idea what
Uh,
it means. They're like, I don't get it. I'm like, it's a Beatles song. Like, I never heard of it. It was on the radio. I'm like, I hate you. I
it's a
hate you
very
so
famous
much.
song.
Hey, I'm not even going to try to explain
Yeah,
Almost Famous to you.
yeah.
So,
But it was the
um,
same kind of Southeast Asia like vibe as the beach. So the town that I lived in Laos, it was like in the mountains by a river, and like the what brought most of the tourists in was the party scene. So we would go tubing down the river, and there was initially there was like about 20-25 bars on each side, like each side of the river. And you'd start at the top in like an inner tire tube. You'd sit in it and you'd float down the river, and people would, like the locals, would throw out ropes into the river, and then you on your little tire thing would grab the rope and they'd pull you into the bar, and then you'd get drunk and whatever, blah blah blah, and then you'd
oh,
jump
I
back into
see.
your little rubber ring, and then you'd go down the river again. So I worked in those bars.
Seeing the
Yeah,
tire people roll through.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It ended up like they ended up shutting the town down after about me being there for about a year because too many people started dying.
They shut the whole town down. They're like,
Yeah,
this isn't going to be a town anymore.
yeah. They shut down all the bars. Well, maybe the town was still there, but they shut down all the bars.
No,
They
but yeah,
stopped
they're like,
tourists.
hey, you're not going to be a tourist attraction anymore because
Yeah,
you lost the right. Too many tourists are dying.
yeah, pretty much.
And here you are, just sweet little Abby, like, but I live here.
Yeah, exactly.
What am I going to do for work?
So, well, I'll tell you what I did for work. I went to Cambodia and then
Like,
got
like most
a job
normal
in a
Brits,
beach bar.
just
Yeah,
right along to Cambodia.
yeah,
What made
exactly.
you decide Cambodia next?
Because they also had a thriving party scene of backpackers.
So it
Yeah,
was literally you were literally driven there by the backpack. Like you said to yourself, okay, where do backpackers go from here? Oh, they go to Cambodia. It must
yeah,
be wild there. I'll go there.
yeah. And I had some friends down there as well.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you did have friends there. So you just like showed up and you're just like, hey, I'm here
yeah. Can I
for
work here
work.
now?
Yeah, can I work here now?
Yeah,
I can't. If you told me to find Cambodia on the map, I wouldn't be able to. And I know it's a country,
yeah.
and I know I've heard of it before, but I would not be able to point at it on a map. And I just know that about myself because that's what happens when you fucking go to school in this country,
Yeah.
is they don't bother to teach you about all the other countries. Public school
Well,
education.
it's next to Thailand.
Okay, so you weren't traveling too far to Cambodia.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not
I know Lao is
and
I know
now-
Lao is out I know Lao's out there again because of movies and Vietnam and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So any Vietnam movie mentioned Lao. That's
Yeah.
I think a deer hunter. Um so and that's a crazy they what are they doing in that? Oh, it's the Russian roulette that they're doing in that movie. And those like bars in Vietnam, that was fucking crazy. Or Laos, that was crazy. Okay, let's get back on track. You get to Cambodia now, and you're there for 6 months.
Yeah, and then I end up going back to Laos.
Why did you decide to go back?
Oh, because they opened all the bars again. It all opened up again. It was a completely temporary measure. It was all
Okay, everybody, they left. We can open them back up again.
Yeah.
The people that told us we had to do this left, so now we can open the bars back up again, party back on. Just don't say anything.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was very different from what it was before. Like where there was like 25 bars along the river, like in the olden days, and then like when they reopened the town, they'd had like 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they condensed a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but the party scene was still thriving. It was basically a place that I could live. So I was getting paid basically in food, alcohol, drugs, accommodation, and my visa, which was just like perfect for me. I was like in my mid to late 20s at this point, and but
no rent.
Yeah, no rent. Like I had literally no responsibilities. Like I'd wake up in the morning, and the only thing I had to do is just go to the bar to work and get drunk. Like I had no bills. I had there's nothing. Like literally just like this completely carefree lifestyle, which is why I stayed there for so long.
What happened?
Well,
something has to happen where you're like, I don't want this lifestyle anymore.
Oh well, it's not that I didn't want the lifestyle anymore, but I wanted to move to Australia for a bit. I wanted to make some money, and the UK has like a visa deal thing with
from Australia. when they made Australia the jail many years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where you guys were sending all your criminals, was to Australia as a way like, get off our island and go to that island.
Yeah.
Australia was built on criminals from the UK.
It was.
So I'm not surprised that they have that visa deal, because you get an extra 6 months or some shit. I think there's you get extra time when you're in Australia as opposed to other countries, and you're in Canada, I think.
Yeah,
right?
So it's like under the Commonwealth. So
that's what I thought.
The visa that I was using was a working holiday visa. So it's working holiday. So it's Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. It's up until the age of 30, you can go and you can have a 2-year working holiday visa.
Okay.
So you have working rights for 2 years. And I think I must have been like 29 at the time, and I was still in fucking Laos, just doing the same thing every day, drinking and drinking, shotgunning beers, like all this kind of shit. So I was like, oh shit, I better go do my Australian visa. So I went to Australia.
Okay, because isn't the dope like crazy in Thailand, like heroin and shit?
Well, I didn't do any.
You're an upper girl.
I am a bit of an upper girl. I am an upper girl. I smoked a lot of opium when I was
okay. You're like, I'm an upper girl, but I just smoke a lot of opium.
Well, like the drugs in Laos were like weird because they didn't have anything. They didn't have anything good. So like in terms of uppers, it was meth or meth. So I smoked meth, obviously.
we have options for you, Abby. Meth or meth.
Yeah, that's it. So you had to go with meth naturally. And then they had a lot of they had opium. So I went through a little bit of an opium phase. That was quite fun actually. It was like I didn't take it too far. It was like maybe like a 4-month phase of opium.
Oh, that's it. That's
yeah,
it.
So it was like casual opium.
Standard casual opium.
Yeah.
You know, like the normies.
Yeah, like the normies. And then they have like a load of like psychedelics. So it's like a lot of mushrooms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The drug choice wasn't like great.
Yeah, don't they have what's that? What's big out there? Not what's that makes you like trip, but not what's that called? Us. I'm blanking on the name. What? It makes you trip. It's not opium. It's oh my god. Like all these like big actors, like Will Smith's been talking about it. Like but yeah, it's you go into these retreats and you go into a tent. Ayahuasca, thank you. Oh my god.
That's South America.
South America, okay. I knew it was some kind of like exotic country.
Yeah.
That okay, so opium, a little bit of opium. Now you go to Australia though. Where do you go to Australia? Do you go to Sydney or do you go to like somewhere specific?
I went to Melbourne.
You have friends?
I got a job there. It's had I basically took the drinking lifestyle that I had in Southeast Asia and carried that over to Australia. So I was still like
yeah, I mean, if I'm looking at an imaginary map in front of me, that's not that far of a ride. Southeast Asia down there. Yeah. Australia, it's like a hop, skip, and a jump, and you're there.
Exactly, pretty much.
It's one of the closest flights you can take to Australia, probably. Okay, so, did you already have friends there?
I had like one friend there.
You're an extrovert, aren't you? Though you can like walk in and just like make friends with people really easily.
Yeah,
like you're not shy to walk up to strangers to be like, hey. I'm not from here. Where are the drugs?
Pretty much. That's it. I'm fairly sure I've used that line in the past. Yeah, that's pretty much my vibe. Yeah. Like I'm a bit of a lone wolf in a way. Like I like to travel alone. I like to go out.
No, I get that. Yeah, I mean all the
I'm like obviously I don't do this now, but like back in the day, like I'd be able to find like the party like very, very easily.
Yeah, I didn't go country hopping like you did. I went state hopping. You know what I mean? So like I was all over here because I kept running. I was running from my disease because I knew I had a problem. You were enjoying your disease and going to the places to thrive with your disease.
Well, that's it.
And I'm just like running from it. Yeah. And so I get the whole like lone wolf, like no one come with me because I want to destroy myself. I'm perfectly good at destroying my own life by myself. I don't need your help, kind of thing.
That's it. And it's only in retrospect that I've actually seen, and that's what I was doing.
Were you single the whole time too? Because it sounds like you might have been single most of the whole entire time. So was I.
Yeah, I mean, I was in and out of relationships and stuff.
I had one serious one. It lasted 3 years, and it was a childhood best friend, and and it's suicide. But her, not me. Obviously, I'm still here. But I got to laugh at it. It's the only way I can feel better about it. But I didn't want any relationships though. Mm-hmm. I was with her because we were childhood best friends and we loved each other. But besides that relationship, I didn't want anybody with me when I want to do this with my own life. I don't need to bring anybody down with me. Let me go on my own. I'll make friends anywhere you want to send me. I'll sit down at a bar and I'll make friends with a guy sitting next to me. If I'm doing school pickup, I'm making friends with the other dad. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I can't help it but to talk to people. That's why I do this podcast. Yeah. I love to talk to somebody every day from all over the world. I don't care if you're in England or you're right next to me. I need that kind of connection where I'm just like getting to know somebody and getting in your head. So, like, I didn't want to bring anybody with me because I wanted to just, like, meet new people along the way.
Yeah.
And how was Australia then for you with meeting all these new people?
It was good. Yeah, I loved Australia. But, yeah, like I said, like, I carried on, like, my partying and, like, the rate and amount of which I was drinking.
Melbourne's not for the sober.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think that was probably around the time where I was starting to realize that it was really a problem, that I was definitely like suffering from alcoholism, like for sure. I think around that time.
When did you finally come home back to England? She's like, I'm in Laos still.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm live to you from Laos, JD.
Yeah, like 2 weeks before I got sober.
Oh wow, okay. So that makes sense, because then your visa was expiring, right?
Well, yeah. Well, I was in Australia for 2 years, and then I went over to the States, and then lived in the States for a little while, and then I lived in.
Welcome. Where did you live?
I lived in New York. I lived in Long Island. So
Long Island of all places too. Who advised you, Abby? Why would you go to Long Island? No, you can't get anywhere from Long Island. You might as well be in the fucking mountains of PA. It's still a 2-hour ride to Manhattan. But if you're in Long Island, you might as well live in Jersey or Pennsylvania, because it's the same distance into the city.
It was awful.
People don't realize that. So, how did you have friends in New York City? Okay, I mean, everyone's got friends in New York City. I mean,
yeah. Okay, so this is what happened. I did two years of like self-destructing in Australia.
What had happened was,
I did 2 years of self-destruction in Australia, and then I was like, right, I'm gonna go back to the UK. I'm gonna see my family, and then I'm gonna go to Mexico, and I'm gonna go destroy myself in Mexico. And South then America, I had a visa for Canada, so I was like, I'm gonna just go destroy myself in Mexico for a little while, and then I'm gonna go up to Canada and start working again, and that's when I'm gonna get my shit together. That didn't happen. I did my 2 years in Australia, and I went back to Laos.
You did go back to Laos. I was just fucking.
I went back to Laos.
But I'm gonna talk to you in 6 months. You're gonna be like, I'm sober, but I'm living in Laos.
Yeah. I could never go back to that place.
No, I don't think you could.
Definitely not. No. But I was in Laos.
Back to Laos.
Yeah.
What brought you to New York City though? To Long Island.
So I met a man. I met a man in Laos, and he was from Long Island.
But he told you it was New York City though. He didn't tell you it was Long Island. There's no way in hell he told you to come back with me to the wonderful Long Island and explain to you what Long Island was.
He did explain to me what Long Island was, but I moved there for love. I was like, oh, well, here's the thing, right? So I was really depressed when I met him. Like my last year in or when I say like my last 6 months in Australia, I like slipped back into like a really, really deep depression. Like I've struggled with depression all my life. And I ended up in a really big depression again, and I went to Laos and I met this guy, and I got it into my head, like, I don't know, when I met him, we fell in love like really quickly, probably because we were drinking all the time. We were just drunk and partying. We were in this like exotic place. We again had no responsibilities, all that kind of stuff. So we fell in love really, really quickly. So I got into my head that this guy had like saved me. Like all my happiness depended on this guy. I became very, very like dependent on him, and I basically just turned him into another drug, like as I do with pretty much every fucking thing in my life. And so when he was like, hey, come to fucking Long Island with me, live in this little hellhole, this floating hellhole, I was like, yeah, sure, I'd love to. And so I did. And
can't be worse than Laos.
And then there we go.
And then it was.
Yeah. And then it just like, that was just a disaster.
How long did you live with this fella?
I lived with him for like, I don't know, it must have been on and off for visa issues, on and off for like 6 months, I guess.
Okay, so you were back and forth to New York then. You kept going back and forth to New York?
Yeah. I was there for like, I think must be there for like 3 months, and then went over to Canada for a little bit and then went back.
Yeah, what do you do when you have like a visa issue, when you're like, oh, I just got to pop over to Canada for a bit? Do you just like go get a hotel for a couple of days and then come back?
No, you had to stay there for like, well, because I had a Canadian visa, I had a working visa, so I was like, for all intents and purposes, I was like a Canadian resident, I guess.
Yeah.
I think I was out of the States for like 3 weeks when I was kind of going in between.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this love affair with this fella didn't have the legs to last.
It did not. So going to Long Island. There's nothing for me to fucking do in Long Island.
There's nothing.
What am I going to do? So I was like working illegally with him. So he had his own catering company, and so I was working for his catering company like a little bit.
Your life depended upon this dude.
Absolutely, 100%.
Literally, like your roof, your money, literally everything depended upon. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have a car. I can't even fucking drive.
No, you can't fucking drive here. It's on the wrong side of the road.
I can't drive anyway.
It's on the
driving. I never learned to drive.
The wheels in the wrong spot. You know. You're like, yeah.
That's it. So like you said, I depended on him completely, like, or everything, and I already had like massive like low self-esteem anyway, but I like completely lost sense of self, like and then the kind of like love bubble that we were in was wearing off, and my depression came. Yeah, exactly, proper popped, and then my depression started creeping back in. I was at home a lot while he was out working. And then I didn't have any friends, I didn't have any family, I didn't have anyone to see. I couldn't get anywhere because
it's Long Island.
There was nothing to do.
You're like, New York City. Yeah, there's plenty to do in New York City. Yeah, New York City, Long Island. New York City, Long Island.
Exactly. If we were in New York City, it'd be fine. Sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I know that for sure. Like, I spent a lot of time in New York, and there's plenty to do, even if it's just you by yourself, sitting in Central Park and people watching for 3 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know what goes by faster, people watching in Central Park or TikTok when you're in Central. Either way, it goes by really, really quickly. 3 hours. You look up and it's like, oh my God, is it dark? You know, because people watching in Central Park or on the subway, oh my God, just sit on the subway if you're feeling safe one day and just enjoy the show. Because it's people watching. I mean, some of the best in the world is right there. I just had a guy on from New York City the other day, and I was just, man, I miss that city so much. We're like 2 hours away where I'm at, and now
you in New Jersey?
I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in the mountains of Pennsylvania. We're the most famous landmark to us that you might have heard of is Scranton, The Office, that show.
I was literally just thinking of The Office. I was like, Pennsylvania, I know Pennsylvania.
Yeah, The Office. Yeah, that's about a half an hour from us. Scranton. That's about a half hour from us. So it's, as you know from the show, it's not that far from New York City because they always drive to New York from the show. You know, so it's not that far of a ride. It's funny, I have a friend up there, and it's just as easy for me to go and visit her as it is for her to hop on a train and go down to Washington D.C. to see her family. You know, because it's so hard to get around in there, and in the city of New York in general, like it's 2 hours to New York City, and then another hour to get into the city once you get there. You know, from here. So that's just good traffic. I wanted to live there one time just so I wouldn't have to have a car, because it's one of the only cities in our country that you don't need a car in. And when you're an alcoholic, you kind of want those kind of goals and aspirations of not having to have those responsibilities. So what happens March 30th of 2020 where you're like, something's changing tomorrow?
Well, so pretty much like when I moved to Long Island, I pretty much after that had like the worst year of my life. Like, and this all leads up to March 31st. So when I was in Long Island with this guy, basically I depended on alcohol to kind of see me through the day. I became really reliant on alcohol. Definitely like knew by then that I was an alcoholic.
Yeah, you're not just drinking at the bar for fun anymore.
Yeah.
You're waking up and tying one on by 10 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, as soon as he left the house, I would just like go straight for the bottle and drink. And I was just like, well, do you know what? If I'm going to be an alcoholic, I'm going to be a fucking alcoholic. And then just like drank as much as I could. He ended up kicking me out because I was an alcoholic. I was a really, really awful person to live with, you know. He went on a little holiday to Laos, came back with a fucking drunk British fella in his house.
Yeah, I was going to say, what did he expect, though?
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, what did he really expect? You know what I mean? And I'm not even being mean to you.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm being kind of mean to your old you. But, like, what did he really, and you kind of said it yourself, but what did he expect going to Laos and inviting not even a girl from Laos, a girl that ran away from the UK that's living in Laos, bro? And you're gonna bring her to boring Long Island?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you expect, dude? If you would have been brought back to Soho, you would have been like just drinking your ass off at the bars and found a job and have been happy and just left him and found a place in New York City. But no, he brought you to fucking Long Island.
Exactly.
So what did you expect bringing a girl from Laos that's British all the way across the pond? And it's like, now be happy here. I'll give you all the happiness. And it doesn't sound like, was he trying to like make the relationship work?
Not really, no.
No, okay, yeah.
He just kind of like left me to it.
You just kind of wanted like a pretty toy to play with, but that wasn't obliterated drunk by the time he came in from work.
Yeah, pretty much.
Can't play with the toy if it's drunk by 2:00 in the afternoon.
Exactly. And it's like yelling at you every time you come home.
Were you a belligerent drunk? You would just yell at him?
Yeah, for sure.
Why did you bring me here?
Yeah, I was mad. I was mad and bored. Like, you know, that's how I was entertaining myself. But he ended up kicking me out. So I moved to Ottawa, which is where I have a friend. I had this Canadian visa, so I was like, oh, I'll go live in Ottawa with my friend. So I started smoking crack over there. I was just like, I know. I was like really, really depressed. I just like broken up with what I thought was the love of my life. I was like really lost. I was in fucking Ottawa. I didn't want to.
I was gonna say you're in one of the worst cities in Canada besides Winnipeg.
All the world. Yeah.
Like, most people don't know about Canadian cities. I kind of do. Ottawa is not a city. You just want to be like, you're literally chilling because it sucks and it's freezing and there's nothing to do and it just parliaments everywhere because it's the capital. So like it's boring in Ottawa. And Winnipeg, I said that and I slammed Winnipeg a little bit, but it's extremely, extremely dirty and it's extremely, extremely dangerous. Like I walked through the streets of Quebec City and it's beautiful old cobblestone, you know what I mean? Like complete opposite of, I don't know. I have a few cities that I love in Canada and a few that I could do without, but I love Canada in general. I would be living there now if it wasn't for co-parenting with our wife's ex and he can't live in Canada because of past history or whatever. Right. But I love what they do up there. I love hockey too. I mean,
all that helps.
Yeah, that kind of helps. But I had a wild weekend in Niagara Falls one year and it was one of those like, you know, we didn't go there expecting to just like I wasn't in my addiction right yet. I was an alcoholic. I was surely an alcoholic already, but I wasn't doing pills yet. I didn't discover pills really for another 2 months. But when I was there, we were drinking and smoking a lot, and we went to like this place and bought a bunch of like bongs and bowls and stuff that was like really cheap. I think it was like High Times. They have a shop in Niagara Falls. Right. And we couldn't get weed to save our life in Canada in 2008. This was we could not find weed. Everyone we asked was like, I can get you coke, I can get you dope, I can get you this, I can get you that, but nobody could get us weed. They could get us any other drug in the world, and it's like, no, I just want to smoke some weed and fucking drink like an adult, like. And, you know, so I ended up not even smoking it over there and just drank all weekend long. But it's a good thing that I was there that year because a year later I probably would have said, yes, give me all those drugs. I'll do all these drugs. Because once you broke your governor on being a drug addict, you're just going to take anything at that. You know.
It. that's how I got on the old crack, because I like, because
Yeah, so how does that? Yeah, because you're just like sitting there and you're just like, oh yeah, Abby, this is crack. Do you want to try it?
Yeah, well, it was actually my boss who gave it to me. So basically, like, I started working at this fast food joint, and my boss was also going.
Was he
like
the mayor of Toronto?
He was. he was like, he was going through a breakup as well, and he was also in a really, really bad place, and he was a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. And then he was like, "Oh, do you know what? I'm just gonna fucking start smoking drugs again. Do you want some crack?" And I was like, "Yeah." So we started smoking crack, and that was my way of getting over my breakup. It was awful. So I went on this like 4-month crack bender. I was very, very unwell. It was just hell on earth.
What was that? No, I'm trying to think of that dude's name, that Toronto mayor that was smoking crack all the time. That's all I can think of now when you say that.
Man, crack is so casual in Canada.
Okay. You do the normal thing, and it's like, I'm going to get over this relationship by smoking a lot of crack, a drug that I don't normally do.
Yeah.
But I have the fuck-its, so give it to me.
Yeah. So, like, I went on a 4-month crack bender, and then I was like, oh my God, this is actually really fucked up. I need to leave. So I left. I went to Vancouver Island, and I was like, right, I'm gonna get better. I started working in this barbecue restaurant, and yeah, I thought like moving somewhere else, everything was gonna be a-okay. Turns out my problems just followed me, and
it's
everything.
Weird,
yeah. It's weird how that happens.
Yeah.
I wasn't smoking crack anymore, but I was drinking so much. I was living in a trailer by myself, and I was just like, oh my God, I just hated myself so much. I hated my life.
And you're in Vancouver?
Vancouver Island.
Okay, there's a difference. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was basically like in the forest.
living in a trailer in the forest.
Living in a trailer in the forest, but it was like this tourist town.
Okay.
But this was like in December. I was like, oh, if I go there like in December, I can get used to it, and then by the time summer comes, I can like make loads of money. Blah blah blah. My drinking was really out of hand, really, really out of hand. Like, yeah. So I was working in this barbecue restaurant, and I was just drinking in the morning. I was drinking at work. I was drinking after work. I was just drunk all the time, all the fucking time. And then one day I took it a little bit too far and drank a bottle of vodka whilst I was working. And my boss came in, and I was just like fucked behind the bar. Like, I can barely remember it. What I remember is like sitting on this seat, and then he was like shouting at me, like telling me off, and I felt like a little schoolgirl. Lost my job, got fired. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake.
He's like, this isn't Ottawa, Abby. You can't smoke crack behind the bar and have a job.
Exactly. So I was like, fuck. I was in my little trailer, and I'm like, oh my God, my life is just so bad. This is the worst. And this is when the pandemic hit. This is when COVID hit. And so like I called my mum up, and I was like, oh mum, I lost my job because of COVID. I was like, I'm coming home. I'm coming back to the UK. But when in reality, like, I knew that
you got out literally just in time, though, for real,
yeah,
though.
Definitely.
Like, you were almost stuck in Canada. Not stuck as like it's a bad thing, because there's worse places to be stuck.
Yeah.
You could have been stuck in Laos, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've got some friends who were stuck in Laos. They had a dreadful time.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's good that you got out, because if I'm not mistaken, it was like by the end of May were the travel restrictions, right?
I guess it must have been. Yeah, I think I left in like must have been mid-March, I think.
Okay, yeah, March 12th is when everything shut down here.
Right. Okay.
So that makes sense that it was like mid-March, and then you get back home to your mom's.
Yeah.
And now this is the first time in over a decade, right, that you're living there, because like you're in Laos, you're in Cambodia, you're in Australia, you're in Long Island, you're in fucking Canada. You know, so this is the first time you're home. Your mom has no idea how hard you've been drinking, right?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, and another thing I totally forgot to mention, whilst I was in Vancouver, oh no, this isn't even a funny story. This is a sad story. When I was in Vancouver Island, like my drinking was really bad, and I was really, really depressed. So I ended up in the psych ward after a failed suicide attempt. So I spent like a little bit of time in the psych ward. So, but when I got home, like Like I told my mum that I'd been in the psych ward, and I told her like how unwell I'd been and like the reason why and stuff. Yeah, and then so in order to deal with that, I just carried on drinking. Like for the first couple of weeks, I was back at my mum's house. Yeah, carried on drinking. Like
and to her credit, you know, she doesn't, you know, you can tell her till you're blue in the face anything.
Yeah.
You know, no parent expects that their kid is drinking as hard as that we get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they don't want to actually have to believe it, right? Because if they actually think it, then it's true, and then it hurts them more when it's real. And I found that a lot. It's like the parents' way of denying things, where it's like, no, it's okay. You drank. Like when I came back from rehab, my parents were like, "So you can drink?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "No." You know, I was gone for 4 months, and I went for pills, right? And my parents are not alcoholics whatsoever. There's always alcohol in their house because they always know how to throw a party.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I swear my mom is ready for a party tomorrow, like every day of the week, but she doesn't drink. She'll, you know, but there's always alcohol. But so they were just confused. They're not used to AA and all that kind of stuff. So when I got back from being gone for 4 months, they're like, "So you can have a drink?" And I'm like, "No." They're like, "Not even like a cup or a glass of wine?" I'm like, "No, I don't drink anymore." Like, it's just, you know, so like they don't understand. They wanted me to be sober. They wanted me to be clean from pills. They wanted my life to be manageable and not off the rails. But they didn't know. You know, if I was some other guy that didn't care about the program, was just getting sent out to rehab, I would have been like, "Yeah, I can still fucking drink. Let me get a beer, Dad." You know, like, but no. It's do you work a program now?
I don't work a program. I do go to meetings every now and then.
Okay. So you do but you kind of do. Everyone, so work a program, people think, you know, it's just AA and NA. I don't consider that working a program to me is something that you design for yourself as a way to stay sober. So like, you know, your program is creating content. Your program is going to meetings sometimes, having support set up. You know what I mean? Like what would you say the biggest thing you do for your sobriety is now that you have over a year in your belt?
Probably the gym. I go to the gym like a lot, and like exercise helps me stay sober for sure. Also meditation. Like
that's a big one. That's like my wife's like go-to shit for staying sober.
Yeah, for sure. Like when I was in like early sobriety, especially like my first year, like, oh man, I turned meditation into another drug. Like I was meditating for like 3 hours a day, like, and then doing yoga on top of that. Like
you got to meet my friend Jade. My friend, she's been on my show. She's in like local to us. But yeah, when she got sober, then she got certified in being a yoga instructor.
Amazing.
She did like retreats, like to do like all this shit, like, and she travels all over by herself. Like she went to South America recently to do that thing that we just said that I can't say the word of. Thank you. She just went to South America to do that recently, and she's 10 years, you know, clean and sober.
Amazing.
So yeah, you know, so that's what it reminds me of when you say shit like that. So, and in meetings, what kind of meetings do you go to sometimes?
So I go to, there's an AA meeting that's like, well, it's actually like across. It's not my local meeting. It's like all the way across London, but there's like really cool people there, really nice people.
Yeah, and so you found your way back to London.
Yeah. So I'm in London now. I live like in the sticks though, in like the suburbs. So when I was living in London before, I was living in like the East End, where it was like grotty, like dive bars and warehouses.
Isn't the East End like the end? Isn't that the end that like Jack the Ripper hung out at?
Yeah.
I thought so. I thought I recognized that East End like darkness somewhere.
He did a lot of his murders next to my
a lot of his murders were next to my
next to the university that I pretended to go to.
You know that college that I went to?
Yeah.
He murdered people near it. No big deal. You know,
Yeah.
in 1890. I can still feel the ghost of that prostitute when I would go to class. So, but that's awesome. I'm so glad we got the chance to talk, Abby. And, you know, I'm so glad that, you know, you're doing what you're doing now video wise, because it does help a lot of people. You know,
Yeah, I
just
hope
putting
so.
yourself out there. And I
Yeah.
think more importantly, it helps you like stay accountable.
It does. It does. And it helps me like work through some of my shit. Like
And
I'll make a video and I'll like write a caption or something and I'll be like, oh shit, I had no idea I felt that way.
But let's be real, you are hitting that dopamine effect when you're getting those likes and you're
Yeah,
getting
a little bit. But then also they're like counteracted by all the trolls.
okay.
So
Yeah, you
like,
gotta ignore the comments.
yeah. And then someone will be like, addiction is a choice. And I'm like, oh, fuck you.
When was it that all of a sudden your Instagram blew up? Because you don't just get 50,000 overnight. Let's be real.
Yeah, I did. I made this video. That got like 11 million views. It was this video of like, it was like a montage of pictures of me in active addiction, and they were like the worst pictures that I could find. And then at the end, like it shows me how I am today.
Yeah.
Like it's like a glow up, and it's me in a pretty dress, looking all like stable and normal.
People want to hear from the creators. You know, people see your videos, and I've had other creators from TikTok and meme creators on here, and people are loving being able to like hear more of the story behind the person who gives us stories, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's
so.
it.
Thank you so much again for sitting down. I know it's late for you over there, so I'll let you get some rest.
All right, cool. It's really nice to talk to you.
You too. Have a good night, Abby.
See you later.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.